Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the Young Adult Librarian at the Rock Island Public Library. And today's book talk is about Locomotion by Jacqueline Woodson. So this is a novel in verse and it is about a kid named Lonnie who is 11, going to be 12 pretty soon. And he's in the 5th grade, and his favorite thing about school this year is he has a teacher named Ms. Marcus. And Ms. Marcus encourages him to write poems. They have poetry notebooks for class, but Lonnie writes in his more than just in school, because he's trying to figure out, sort of how to understand things that have happened to him, and he wants to put into words the things he's thinking and feeling, and the things he wants to remember. And the reason for this, the main reason, is when he was 7, his parents died in a fire. He and his little sister Lily, they were at they were all gonna go on this trip the next day, with a bunch of other kids. So they were at the pastor's daughter's house, because she's like, all right, we're gonna leave super early in the morning. And Lonnie's mom and dad were like, yeah, Lonnie, Lily, you can sleep over, and we're gonna have a date night. And Lonnie remembers, even at 7, he's like, what do you mean? Parents don't go on dates. But his parents, they said goodbye. But the next day, when Lonnie and Lily returned, they found that their parents had died in a fire. And so basically, as a 5th grader, Lonnie, he hasn't gotten to live with Lily in a long time. They, after their parents first died, they stayed with different people, but having 2 additional kids is a lot for most families. So they moved around kind of a lot between different relatives and family friends, and eventually they ended up in a group home. And finally Lily was adopted by this woman who, she didn't want a boy, she just wanted a girl. And eventually Lonnie was adopted by this woman named Ms. Edna. And Ms. Edna, she's kind of all of Lonnie's foster family at first. She has 2 grown-up sons, and one lives upstate and another one is away, overseas. He's in the army. And so Lonnie, in the first part of the book, he's just still kind of adjusting to not being in the group home anymore. He's trying to do his best at school, but he's also, with Miss Edna, he knows that he can be kind of loud because he's 11. That's just, we're all kind of loud. Kids can be loud at that age. But he feels sort of okay, Miss Edna has to be okay with me. I don't want to get sent back to where I was. So, as the book goes on, Lonnie becomes more secure in where he lives and more comfortable. But at the start, he's still trying to find the words, for missing his parents and missing his sister, and knowing that, even though they're apart, they're still family, and he wants to find a way to live with Lily again. But he knows, okay, with her current foster mom, that's not gonna happen. And what happens, they do get to visit, they'll have visits sometimes. And what Lily does on one of these visits is she gives Lonnie a Bible, and she says, when you've read this, when you find God, we'll be together again. And, Lonnie goes to church with Ms. Edna, and one thing he talks about in the book, in one of the poems that he writes about his life and different people he knows, is his friend Eric, who sings at a different church. And Eric can be mean, and Eric's got something going on that you eventually find out about. But he's got this amazing voice. And so this is one of those things that Lonnie thinks about in connection to God and religion. And, he's not quite sure, because, when people talk about things like his parents' horrible death, this terrible thing that happened that Lonnie had no control over, it's one of those things that's supposed to be God's plan. And Lonnie kind of struggles with that, this idea. He writes at one point a poem to God, this is what people say, and I'm not sure I get this. I'm reading this Bible that my sister gave me. I'm not gonna let my little sister down, but, I'm struggling with this idea, what does this mean, that this happened to me, that this happened to both of us, and we're still living with this? And, we're living different lives now, we still love each other, but we can't be together right now. And Lonnie he wants to understand things. He's really trying to articulate his feelings and his thoughts, because I mean, he's at this time in his life where, like, you know, obviously things have changed a lot since his parents died. But now, I mean, you know, there's like this girl in his class that he likes, and, you know, by the time the school year is ending, he knows that he's going to get to go upstate and be at camp with his sister for 2 weeks. And Miss Edna's son Rodney comes home, and this is like, suddenly, you know, Lonnie has like a new big brother, and this is really exciting. So even though, you know, there's a lot of sad things that Lonnie remembers and is still like coping with, I mean, he's got new and happy things in his life too. So all the poems are about that, just different things in Lonnie's life. And, you know, he's the person writing. These are all from his point of view, and, you know, there's different forms because, like, they're learning about poetry in school. So Ms. Marcus, the teacher, is having them write poems in different styles, like haiku and then like sonnets and things. But a lot of these are just like stream of consciousness or, you know, free verse. They're free verse poems that Lonnie has written about his life. So if you like realistic fiction, this is a great book. Jacqueline Woodson has written a lot of great books, but this is the first one I read of hers. Like, I've read her autobiography, but this was the first fiction one that I love the cover. And there's a sequel called Peace, Locomotion. And yeah, if you like Lonnie, you can learn more about him in that book. But yeah, he's just a really interesting character, and as you get to know him, you know, you want things to be, like, things are getting better for him by the end of the book. Like, he's happier than he was before and feeling more secure. So yeah, just as you read, you're kind of like following him throughout the school year. Like, this book, it's like his poetry notebook from throughout the year. So check it out. This book is available through Libby, so if you want to read it, you can check it out there, or you can get a physical copy from the library. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.